Hey folks, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted.
Hey, we're here to tell you necromancers can be good, and we're going to tell you how.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter. Get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
If you've been hanging out for a while and you've visited a fair amount of Nerdarchy videos, especially when we talk about a particular topic, namely necromancy, we come across as being very anti-necromancer when it comes to playing good characters and the use of necromancy. And I could see how you might feel that way, because we were very much in the camp of if you raise evil undead, you're then therefore kind of evil, or not a good person at the very least. But that being said, we love the idea of a good necromancer and how one might go about, incorporating that into into their game.
So, we'd have to break down what does it mean to be a good necromancer or a white necromancer. And I think that's going to stem from the fact that, as we've previously stated, and we're not getting into the argument again, but I'm certain some people are going to put it out there, raising dead is evil. However you want to do it, that's our opinions. So how can you make a necromancer that is a good guy? Because traditionally, or not traditionally, but by Raw, if you look at the wizard tradition in the player's handbook, they get abilities about raising and controlling undead. And if you're a good guy, it's dark magic to do this. It means half your abilities are basically going to be useless because you're never going to touch them.
Right, yeah. So you definitely don't want to do that. So we decided to talk a little bit about what would the role of a good necromancer be. So in my opinion, the good necromancer is actually a very compassionate person, but most of that compassion is actually placed on those who have already departed, or maybe someone who has recently experienced the loss in their life. So in my mind, they kind of work like counselors for the living, but they also want to shepherd the spirits of the dead onto the next world, and not have them lingering, or if they are, they would want to try and help them and advise them and make them as comfortable as they can until they can break through to the other side.
So you could have this wizard who they cross that line, or they walk that line to guide souls across to destroy those connections between life and death, life and unlife, if you will. So maybe they're passionately against the undead, especially those. Forget about the sentient ones, like the ones that it's not within their control. They've been brought back here against their will. Whether you're talking about wraiths and specters and shadows and what have you, that they don't have control over it. I think these guys would be their focus, their purview.
No, I would agree. I mean, and frankly, most undead, unless you're a lich, has very little control over what has been done. Generally, and that's also one of the problems with necromancy and undeath is generally it's something that's done to you, not for you.
Right.
So so it's the will of someone else. So the idea that these guys would be the champion to set things right, free spirits, send them on their way. So that if you're a necromancer and you're animating dead, this guy is probably your nemesis.
Right.
They're gonna Van Helsing it up and probably looking to have words with you.
And I see these guys constantly striving to erase the bad rap, because pretty much for all ages that we've played D&D, the term necromancer is at best gray, if not considered dark, in the tables that I've played at. So you've got this guy, and I was like, oh well, I'm a necromancer, and he's proud of it because of all the good things that he does, because of the helping crossover, and people are ready to grab their torches and pitchforks and be like, get out of my town. because the populace is afraid that they're going to create undead and whatnot. So I think there'd be a lot of really awesome role playing that could be done with a character like this.
Yeah, well, there's a good possibility they wouldn't even call themselves necromancers as well. They might be spiritualists or ectomancers or something else. Because one of the things too is we still want them to interact with with spirits, with the spirit realm. I don't know if you still consider them undead if they're not one of the monster types, but we like the idea of them being a channeler of spirits and being empowered by these creatures that are stuck between worlds. And not only that, they commune with them, they talk with them. They probably to a certain extent they have some of them that maybe they're even considered their friends. Like I would love to do a familiar version of this where they just have a spirit guide that kind of goes with them. They're stuck to this place or they're attached to this particular person for a reason. And unfortunately, there isn't anything that this good necromancer can do in order to move them on to the next world. But in the meantime, they do get this advisor and they get this kind of like friend who is stuck here for whatever reason.
Yeah, I was thinking along those lines exactly, to have this companion that it might for the most part just be wispy spirit tendrils, and every so often it could manifest into some likeness that has
It's a force
meaning.
ghost. It's a force ghost.
Yeah, essentially.
It is what I was thinking. But we even came up with some ideas for creating a wizard tradition. But before we get to that, we would like to talk about another couple guys who have been seen using scythes and wearing Grim Reaper robes at different times, and that is our Sons of Nerdarchy over on the Nerdarchy store. As depicted here, these clowns like to go around scaring people and masquerading as Grim Reapers themselves, perhaps even necromancers. But you can adorn your body with them. With that, let's jump back into our video and talk about the good necromancers.
All right, so we'd want to create a wizard tradition.
And we have, sort of. So we've kind of outlined the bare bones of one, and we're going to probably work on this a little bit more and release it into the wild someplace at some point. But like the second level abilities for we're thinking a couple cantrips, spare the dying and chill touch cantrips. If you already have them, you can then take it from someplace, or you can replace a cantrip with something else then. So I think that's thematic. The idea of, maybe they're not looking to, raise and animate the dead, but, they might try and keep you here just a little bit longer. They can whisper to your down body and call you back away from the light.
Now, chill touch is already on the wizard's list, so you could go with Toll the Dead.
Yeah. Well, the reason I went with chill touch is because it's a cantrip that is particularly effective against undead, and that is why I went with that one, because I thought thematically it made sense. If these guys are the enemy of undead, then they should have a cantrip to kick the undead butts with.
There you go. That makes sense.
Also at second level, channel spirits, and requires an action. Choose one skill, you gain expertise in that until you complete a long rest. So this doesn't have to be a skill you have, and the idea is you call forth a spirit to you that is roaming around, and you borrow one of their abilities until you can keep borrowing the same one or different ones, and it could be any kind of ability, something that wizards don't even get. We're borrowing a little bit from the Dresden Files series, where more Linquester actually was able to do that when he needed to defend himself. So he had himself possessed by a spirit that just he was still in control, but he had access to that the abilities of that particular spirit, who was a martial character. So I really like that, and I really wanted to incorporate that. Also, there's another series that Doug was telling me about that I'm not familiar with that had something similar. So we wanted to pay a little homage to that and borrow from there. Now, typically at second level, the necromancer, their necromancy cantrips are more effective, and they get the ability to
half the gold cost.
Yeah, half the gold cost, learn stuff quicker. So we haven't even delved into that. We wanted to do something a little bit more unique. Now at sixth level, that's when necromancers typically get the ability to animate dead and become more effective at it.
So we're like, nope, you're not getting any of that nonsense. and we're going to go with Spirit Guide. This is where Speak with Dead gets added to your spell book, and uniquely, you're going to be able to ritual cast it. I felt that if this is someone who walks that line, is someone that is going to typically speak with spirits, I think this is something that's so important that they be able to do it whenever they need to. I might want to even go into like, either they cast it as a ritual or they cast it with a quick ritual. I wouldn't want it to take the full 10 minutes. It's got to get workshopped. But I want them to be able to speak with spirits when they need to be able to without expending those spell slots.
Well, so yeah, there might be something to do there, but Speak with Dead is actually different than speaking with spirits. It's actually stronger because you can recall the spirit into the body to talk to the person, or you can use the information that the corpse had. So that's why I went. And I thought it's still pretty strong ability. Yeah, I was a little unsure of, does this kind of equate to the same as animate dead and the ability to animate extra dead? Not sure. This is something we've got to workshop, and hopefully, guys, we got a place where you can help us out with it down in the comments. 10th level, in your 2 undeath, beginning at 10th level, you have resistance to necrotic damage, and hit point maximum can't be reduced. You have to spend so much time basically with undead that these don't affect you. This is straight from the Necromancer. I'm like, yeah, I think this kind of works too, because since you're like the anti-necromancer, that makes you resistant. Maybe we could look at this one, rework it, and do something more interesting. But at the same time, I also felt like thematically it also works.
Right.
14th level, rebuke undead. Starting 14th level, you can use magic to frighten undead as an action. You can choose undead that you can see within 60 feet of you. That creature must make a charisma saving throw against your wizard spell DC. If it succeeds, you can't use this feature again. If it fails, it becomes frightened of you. And or the idea of enemy of undeath ignores immunity and resistance to necrotic creatures with necromantic. Let me try that one more time. Enemy of undeath ignores immunity and resistance necrotic of creatures with the undead type. I was afraid that ability is actually going to be too limited and too weak. And the first one is really just twisting what is already there for the Necromancer. Generally, they can command and control them. Well, that doesn't fit for these guys. But I do like the idea of them using a word of rebuke and, kind of letting, unleashing their power, the power of their presence, and leaving undead quaking in their boots.
It's a minor channel divinity, essentially. They're definitely stealing from the cleric if they're trying to turn. They're not getting the dust ability here. But I mean, it's 14th level, so we might want to be able to do something. Maybe you incorporate spell slot usage into it, and if you do so, this happens. So there's a lot of different directions it could wind up going.
Well, the other thing too is, though, with this ability, it's actually a little bit stronger than Channel Divinity in a sense, because it's just an action to do it. It's not a resource. So that is the one thing, but it's very tied to one specific type of monster. You're not getting the latter part where you could actually just destroy undead. We're just making them frightened. So maybe actually both abilities together aren't too strong. The immunity, you're overcoming immunity and resistance is only against the undead type. So if it happens to be a demon or a devil that's immune, that ability isn't going to do the same for you. But because you were such an enemy of undead themselves, you're able to actually use it against them. But, like I said, this is the early stages of us workshopping the idea for a good necromancer.
We just wanted to talk about it, let you guys know what we're working on, and be able to get some feedback from you guys.
So, speaking of feedback, we have a place where you can give that to us down in the comments below. While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can support us over on Patreon.
So, until next time,
stay nerdy.